For me, when it comes to like what is a great personal statement, there are 4 qualities that I look for. One of them is core values. I feel like when I read a personal statement, I should be able to name 4 or 5 things that the student would fight for. What would you go to the mat for? As my friend Deb, who was also a counselor, used to say. The second thing that I look for is some element of what I like to call vulnerability. And when I'm kind of qualifying that as I say that, because to me, vulnerability can be expressed in so many different ways. Okay, it doesn't mean that a student has to necessarily express their deepest, darkest secret, right? Sharing something that is, there's like stigma attached to or shame is one way of being vulnerable, but a student could be vulnerable by sharing information about their family. It could be sharing details about, something that they really care about. So just geeking out on something that you love, but maybe someone else doesn't necessarily love. So there are many ways to be vulnerable, and I'll give you a test for it in just a second. The third thing I look for is insight. My friend Katie Sweeney, who used to be a rep at Reed College, used to say that how she knows if a student is college ready is if they can answer the question, so what? And to me, that's what insight is all about. Are there 3 or 4 moments that are what I call so what moments, where you look into the personal statement and you go, oh, I didn't expect you to say that there? Because to me, the key quality of a moment of insight is, does it surprise us? Okay. And the fourth one, and this is like later in the drafts, is craft. I look for, did the student clearly revise this over several drafts? Could they answer for like what each paragraph is doing, what each sentence is doing? And then ultimately we get into sort of word choice and that kind of stuff. So just to recap, core values, vulnerability, which is going to be hard for some students, insight, and craft. Now, I didn't just invent these out of thin air. I looked over a bunch of personal statements and looked at, well, what am I consistently drawn to? Now, when it comes to helping students bring those into an essay, here's what I say do. For values, scan the essay. You can put it on a Google Doc, and you can basically use the commenting feature and see if you can identify, well, which values are coming through really clearly in the application. And you can mark those. You can even, if you wanted to use just a highlighter, if you wanted to print it out and just highlight it, this is, leadership is coming through really clearly. And you can mark where it is. The second question to ask in terms of values is, which values are kind of coming through, or which, did you want to come through? And maybe they're not coming through yet. Okay. So you can mark that in a different color, or, note that in a Google comment. And then the third thing is, which values are not coming through, but maybe could. So where do we see potential for certain values to come through? The second thing, in terms of vulnerability, how do we test if it's vulnerable? As you read it, do you feel like it's coming more from here, the head? Or is it coming more from like a deeper place, the heart or the gut? And this is, I know, kind of like a weird woo-woo way of sort of sensing it, but with your intuition, like, where does it land for you? Do you feel like you're learning more? Are you really starting to get to know this person on a deeper level that's beyond just what the author knows? For insight, the one way to test it is like, do those moments actually surprise us? So you can kind of highlight those and go, are there moments that I didn't expect you to say this? Because that's what makes the essay really pop. Oftentimes it comes down to the specifics. Speaking of specifics, that's going to come in really handy when it comes to craft. What does craft mean? It means revising. Oftentimes it means taking something that you said in a bunch of words and say it in just in fewer words. Sometimes it means having an interesting opening. Sometimes it means having just that right ending. And so these are things that I think are kind of lower order concerns that we talk about later in the personal statement process. But these are my 4 qualities. I encourage you to come up with your own qualities if you're a teacher or a counselor, or if you're a student, you can rewind this video, go back to the beginning, and now start marking up your personal statement going, okay, do I have these qualities in my personal statement?